So I have gone to get some cardboard because I needed some cardboard, and it looks like this is just a regular piece of cardboard. But could you perhaps guess what it is or what it's for? I'll just save you a trip. For the roof. The mistake that I made on this car is that the roof from the CTS was so curvy, and it was not nearly as flat as I thought. I thought that I could, I took pictures like from the side, like from right here on both vehicles. I took one from here, I took one on the other car. And I was like, oh yeah, that's flat enough. And I get it home, it's not. But for the sake of expedition, I made it happen. Anyway, this is a piece of cardboard that I cut out, the general shape of the roof. I just did a rough line on it and then just kept shaping it until I got it close enough. So this gives me an idea of the profile, the side profile of the roof. Because if, again, look at the 540, kind of comes up in the middle, dips back there, and dips back there. So that's a mistake I don't want to repeat. So by having this singular piece of cardboard, I can go to any junkyard, any car, and I can just take this out and stick it on the roof and see if the roof is going to work on here. Now, the other thing too, I'm not really done with this piece of cardboard because yes, I'm going to put it in the middle, but I also have to mark where the sunroof begins. So like right there, and right there is where the factory one is, but the furthest most point that I can go is right here. So I can't make this go any further without doing a lot of work to the headliner and changing stuff like that. I don't want to do that. So I have to mark where the beginning of that is, and then I'm also going to drop the headliner in here again. I should have thought about this before, but I'm going to drop it again and see where the sunroof cassette for this thing ends, or at least measure that point right there where my factory sunroof stops. But then what's most important is where the roof skin, there's support underneath that, where that stops at. That's as far as I can go with a new, with my cuts and everything. So if it stops, say here, which probably does, then I have from here to here to play with a new piece of glass and a cassette and everything like that. So what I'm gonna do, you see this front mark, and you see the rear mark. I'm gonna mark it right here in the middle, and then that will be my reference point as far as what I have room to play with going backward. So that ends up looking like that. So I take this, center it to the mirror, so I know that I'm in the middle of the roof, and then boom, there we go. Now we know starts there, factory roof starts there, ends there, and then I'm gonna make a mark back there once I figure out the distance between, again, this and where the support stops. And the first thing you do to get in there, which I think is just the coolest thing, I probably won't ever get over this, but fantastic. So I just pulled this down. Now I can see, here's our old cassette, which tells me that this, you see this curve right here, how that ramps up. If we can keep our old cassette at the same height from the edge of the roof skin or from the top, down, then I might not have to modify the board too much. But I think the factory cassette is a fantastic marker for as big as we can make this thing, because you see it comes all the way to this corner where that pinch weld's at, right there. So the factory cassette dimensions are pretty much maximum what we can put in here without, which I don't want to do, without cutting into this part. That's important. So I don't want to cut into that. Granted, if I did, I could weld, the new stuff to it, but I'd rather not fuck with that. I'd rather fuck with just the cosmetic aspect, which is the skin itself. So that's what we're looking like in there. So I'm just gonna go ahead and drop this thing the rest of the way. I gotta unbolt the visors and stuff. So now we got the whole thing dropped, which is fine. I take out the sunroof cassette anyway, but you can see, not the cassette, but the fabric. But you can see from here kind of the underworkings of the roof and the sunroof and the cables and everything like that. So again, we see if we measure this cassette, that's going to be our maximum distance forward pretty much. And then if you move back here, that's going to be our maximum distance rearward. as well as the width between the two sail panels, because there's quite a bit of strength going on in those. So I definitely don't want to mess with those. But I'm going to measure from about here at the front of that cassette, because that's where that line is, on back, and measure out the whole thing. So that's where we're at. From the outermost edge, which is about this point, to the other one, and then from the furthermost, which is this point, to this point. Those are our dimensions. So I have that much room to play with. That's the dimension of what I got to play with here. So I got good stuff to go off there. That is a Buick LaCrosse, and I saw one the other day drive by, and I was like, that motherfucker got a little panel on it, don't it? And little, emphasis on little, because, well, a lot of them that I've been finding have been too big, and they won't fit in the application that I want to put it in. So while I was up here at the yard, just casually going around, killing some time waiting to meet a guy, and I just drive around side by side and see what I can find. Found that, and I got some measurements of it. So I'm going to go back home and reference those measurements. If it lays out good, meaning that there's not too much of a difference between the curvatures of the roofs, I'm going to cut it out, and I'm going to take it back home. So yeah, if that all works out, panel roof secured. Alright, so I've got this here, and got my template in here, and actually I think the curvature of this that's nice. That fits really well. I don't know if you can see the immediate problem though. That's the front of our roof, and that's the back. That's like that motor's right there at the back. That said, it is possibly possible that I move the front, so this is where the factory one was, as it says. It's possible that I can shift this whole assembly forward, glass go forward, further into the roof to allow for more room there. Though I gotta say, I don't want to do that exactly for headliner and all the other stuff that's there. I want to leave that where it is. So this is kind of the point we need to move from there. So that's the front of the windshield, and then this is the back. What I'm thinking is to not quite relocate that, but move it a little bit more inbound, and that could prove to be difficult, but I'm thinking if we chop there and chop there, because these channels in here are kind of important as far as keeping it square, keeping the gears square to the rotating gear. So to move this whole situation inbound just a hair is what I'm thinking that I want to do. I may have to do. Lifting it up, I mean, there's a little bit of room to do that, to get probably 3 more inches out of that at max. But those inches are pretty critical. I'm going to have to go back into the car and, continue to measure stuff out, obviously. But, yeah, this is going to be a squeeze. Going to be a squeeze. But, like I said, curvature-wise, it looks great. So after doing some measuring in the car, again, we see where this kind of ends at. This is our base point where the factory roof starts. That's where this would start as well. This is the issue we run into, is that shit goes to the back, like the back of the back. I mean, and then not to mention the height that it has. I'm going to do some careful measuring, I guess, because mind you, the roof does have a curve, so it's going to do this big curvy number. And this could potentially sit below the structure part of the roof with some modification, some massaging. But then it would still be that much further down that it's sitting you know, from this point to the very bottom of this. I don't want to be losing, you know, have a fucking 4-inch drop in my headliner at the back of it, you know, because that would cut down on visibility. So the other alternative that presents itself is that I get rid of the shade completely, because that's all that this motor is. The motor for the glass is up here. I can get rid of the shade completely and do what I want to do on the 7 and do a electrochromic or a photochromic tint on these two, so that way it's like the SLs have, because the SLs, the newer ones, have panoramic roofs in them as well, but there's no shade, probably because of problems like this, and they have electrochromic tint instead, where you can just hit a switch and you can block out the amount of light that comes in. So that's something I might look into as well. If this is going to be, you know, the cassette itself, the glass and everything will fit in there just fine. It's this entire back section that is giving me some grief as far as the fitment goes. So I'm going to do some more research on photochromic tint and see if it's become more available now. I know I can fit it on here because you can get it in foot wide rolls. It's this part that becomes a challenge because there's that much open space in it, and I can't find rolls of the stuff that are wide enough to cover that. So got the headliner out, which is super easy, and next up we're going to be taking out the center cassette. So the first thing we're going to need to do is unplug it, disconnect that, disconnect the drain tubes, which are these little clamps here. You know, cut these, that won't be an issue at all, on each corner. And from there it's just a bunch of torque screws that are around the edge of it. The whole thing will drop out. So the best part about this car is the pillarless design, and that's true in many cases, because when I drop this out, it just gets to slide right out the side. So this is it with no cassette. Nice and open, and that's going to fit nicely. Width-wise, it's perfect. Look at it from right there. Look at it right there. Right there. That's perfect. And you see this profile too is fucking bang on with the shape of the E31's roof. And all we're gonna have that's different is a little bit of a curvature instead of being dead flat, but that's fine. So got our drain tubes there. That one pulled the thing out with it. The E31 centers were made terribly, so notice I'm doing this. And we are going to be slicing, probably need to grind out these welds first. So you got 2 welds there. 1, 2, 3, 4 right there. Probably 6 over there as well. And then this whole roof skin will be free to come out. So that's the next step, is grind these up. this is it with glass sandwiched between the skin and the old roof. And tell me that profile isn't goddamn perfect in this thing. Looks great. It looks great. So the welding is going to happen tomorrow. And, well, yeah, the welding's going to happen tomorrow. There's actually more room in here than I thought. I was thinking at first I'd have to pull out that motor, which is for the shade. And I thought that I would have to do like electrochromic tint, which I still might do anyway, just for, you know, space saving sake, because that does hang down just a wee bit. And this car's already pretty slim, but that looks great. Random update. That's the motor that came off. This is my original motor. There's no plugs and all that. Why is the bolt pattern the same? This fucker bolts right up there. This is the new panoramic joint. My original motor bolts right up to it. Now I get the motor to move and everything, but I can't really move glass until I get this back, which means I have to get this shade out of the way, and then I think I'll be able to actually operate the glass with the original wiring for this, and then just duplicate this for back there like I did on the 540. But I'll be damned. Alright, so a lot has happened since the last piece of footage because I left my memory card for the DSLR at home. Anyway, this is all trimmed out down to size. You see how close of a fit this was. What I'm about to do is roll through primer on all this backside, and then etch primer once it's actually into the car, just to secure any, you know, raw metal bits back here. So there's that. I've already just now taken the liberty of going around the edges of this thing, and these are not pretty cuts. This was not a fun piece of metal to work with, and the cutoff wheels I was using were garbage. It's a lot. Ignore that. That's why we have a welder to fill all that stuff in. Anyway, I'm covered in red and white. I just need some blue. So yeah, that's all about to go in over here. We've done the same thing. We've used the flange tool over there to make an indent in which that will sit, and it will sit down in here. This is well through primered as well, so that's flanged up, so the skin will sit straight down in there. And yeah, I'm about to slap this thing on there and weld it. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to be able to record the welding itself because I left the DSLR at home. I don't have a tripod for the phone, but just imagine, use your brain, and I will just put some footage right here of me welding the 540 because it's the exact same thing. Good morning. It is the top of day 3 of the sunroof project. Yesterday, got everything welded, or at least the first round of welding. There's always some more to go and do when you grind down what's there. You know, you always reveal a couple of pinholes. At least I do, because I'm not a professional welder. I've admitted that. I have no problem admitting that. So, yeah, headed up there today. What's on the docket is to get the second round of welding done after the first round of grinding. We're going to do a little bit more welding on it. I need to do some panel beating. I had a wee bit of warpage, got carried away, and I'm going to do my epoxy primer. That's a huge, very important step in all of this. And then I'm going to do the fiberglass filler right over that. And as you're learning right here with me, you can put filler directly over the epoxy primer. You don't have to sand it. If it's within a certain time frame, you don't have to sand it in order to get the filler to stick. It's basically like a new skin for the metal. It took me a long time to understand epoxy primer, but it's a critical step if you're doing something like this. So that's going to go on there, and from there I'm going to take it home because the rest of the body work at least in the or on the roof, can be done not here. I just come up here to do like my heavier fabrication and welding and things like that, and then I do my smaller fabrication at the upholstery shop, and then even smaller jobs I do in my actual garage. So yeah, the car will be coming home with me today, and it will have a new roof. And the next step after that is to wire it all. And as you saw, I have found out that the sunroof motors have the exact same bolt pattern between the original one and probably the one that's in this car, and it would lend itself that most sunroof motors are the same bolt pattern. Now the gears and the ratios and the directions of those, not so much the case. But the wiring part, I may have cut my time in half on that, so that's exciting. If not, you know, we'll figure it out like we did before, and we'll get it wired up. And I'm still on the fence about the shade. I don't know if I'm going to keep that in there or not, just because of the visibility in the back window. It's already a low slung car, and adding this roof to it makes it even more so on the inside. So thinking of visibility and headroom and all of that, you know, all things that I got to consider. But yeah, no, by the end of this video, I'll be driving home the 850 with the fresh panoramic sunroof. Oh, there's a lot of dust. See all that floating around? I'm going to blow some of it off. But it's very, very open in here. I'm gonna go for a first drive with no roof. Alright, so this is welded, ground, and almost ready for the epoxy. I gotta finish getting the rest of the paint off these corners so that I can be pulling this trim off and everything so that I can actually get, you know, to the very edge of this. But that's hot. You can't tell me it's not. 850 has a panoramic sunroof. First of its kind, and I am overjoyed. I am. And another benefit is that this is larger than the factory one. The factory one is probably about to here from there. So yeah, it's a much bigger roof, and well, it's fucking cool. It's fucking cool. It fits in there like a glove, really. I mean, look at that. You could not ask for a better match. It's like this roof was made for this car. So I'm stoked about that. Next up, I'm going to epoxy prime this again once I grind off the rest of this paint. It's not a whole lot left, but it is a little bit cold and it's a little bit shitty outside. So probably going to move some things around and do it. I gotta get it done. So it's technically resting right now. So yeah, the roof is welded in. It looks awesome. I'm stoked. It's fucking cool looking, man. I'm happy. Now it's a bit less dusty in here because I've got that's in there. No, I'm equally thrilled with this, if not more than I was with the 540s roof. This is now the second pano roof, but my third like roof skin swap deal. So I've gotten pretty comfortable and pretty confident with my abilities in doing this stuff. And yeah, this looks cool as well. To me, it looks like it looks kind of like the 997 Targa, which I was just watching a Doug DePiro video last night on the 997 Targa. And if you don't know what that is, so basically it's a Porsche 911 whose glass, like from the roof, will come down a little bit and then go underneath or in front of the back glass. And the back glass, well, the roof basically becomes your back glass. It's two layers at that point, and the roof is wide open. So this is a lot like that in that it's two big ass sail panels. It's a separate roof panel, and then it's this massive sunroof that's in here. And then when it's opened up, I'm
mean, yeah, I could definitely see this car feeling like a Targa just because of how big and wide this thing is. So, no, this is really cool. I'm driving it home right now because, like I said, I got to get this epoxy laid on it. And it's a bit too cold to do it up there, so I'm going to go to a place where I can do it inside. But no, this is very, very Tesla Model 3 in a good way. Look how much roof that is. How much? Look at that window. That's good.
Primed. Go. Alright, so this is coat number 2 of epoxy, and that's after doing some filler work, and you can kind of see little divots and shit, but that's only the first 2 layers of fiberglass filler, which I didn't use very much of the first time, hence me needing more this time. And